Yes, we are live, Sawubona. Well, we are live on this recording, actually. This is the last time, this is the last time, according to the promise that I granted you at first, that we would be recording this session. So for those of you who are watching for the very first time, first just let me say welcome, welcome, welcome. And then let me say to you, Sawubona. Sawubona really means hello on its face, but it is a Zulu tribal greeting, which is much, much more than just the hello. It is an invitation to be received and to be honored and to be celebrated and to be welcomed and to be embraced into this space. The whole of who you are, every aspect of your identity that you carry by yourself, and all that you bring with you with your ancestry, all of that. All of you are welcome, is welcome in this space. All are welcome. All of you are welcome in this space. And so we are glad that you are here. I should say all of you is welcome in this space. And so we are glad to see you here. Usually this is a live recording where you can have dialogue on the spot, in the moment, in real time, with and interact and engage with the conversation in that way. But on tonight, I have been in phlebotomy class since June 28th. And last night, I finished my final exam. I made a 97. I missed 3. I don't know why I can't make 100. But I am a phlebotomist. Yes, I am. But the journey is not over yet, because on Friday, I take the exam to be nationally certified. So I am now, by the time you are watching this, I will be in class reviewing. We've got review today and Thursday. Tomorrow we are going to take a little break and have some fun time together. But on today and Thursday, we will be reviewing for the test. The test is on Friday. And once that test is done, then I will be nationally certified. So I can take the certification to any state in the United States and be recognized. Right now, I definitely could be recognized in Arkansas, but beyond that, it would be like whether they wanted to or not, it would be up to their discretion. But once the national certification comes in, that won't be so. There should be no reason for the denial. So if I do get denied, we can blame it on something else. And of course, I'll be ready to raise up whatever that something else is. So thank you for being patient with me as we have been recording these last couple of weeks. There are ways, though, if you are for the first time, or just as a reminder to those of you who come on a regular basis and sit with me in this space and consider the things that I am saying. All of that is all I'm doing, offering up ideas and opinions and facts and strategies for our consideration. And just like with the Sawubona, you have an opportunity, you have the right, you have the freedom, you are liberated in this space to either accept it or reject it. The choice is yours. But as it relates to the Sawubona, the oneness of humanity, whether you accept or reject the invitation really doesn't matter, because you cannot sever the relationship. We are humans together, whether you like it or not. And so how you respond to that is totally on you. But that response will be felt. It will reverberate throughout the rest of the world, your reaction to all of us as humans. So that's just something for you to know. And again, consider. But that, yes, you are asked to just consider these things and then decide whether or not you want to engage or how you want to engage. If not, you can just receive, and that's it. And that's more than enough. But one of the ways that you can engage with a good fight is by seeing yourself reflected in the text. That's what I've been saying over and over again. That's what I've been saying. But last week I had an epiphany. You can see yourself reflected in the text, where you can find something that is read or shared, or some experience of the characters that are either alive or ancient. And you can say, yes, I know what that feels like. And I know that that's me right there. You can see yourself. That's me right there. But another way that you can see yourself reflected in the text is that you can locate yourself in a person. Well, it's the same thing. So even if we're talking about Jesus, you have the ability to say, I'm Jesus in this story. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's the same thing. I think I was just getting ahead of myself. The other thing that you can do, another way that you can engage, is to look through a window where somebody else's story is shared in the space. Like, you don't see yourself anywhere. Like, I don't know. I don't see myself in any of these situations. That's not my personality. That's not how I respond. That's not how I'm receiving this. I'm over here being me. But I absolutely want to give myself over to the experience of storytelling. So you are sharing your story with me, and I am receiving it as gift, and I am honored to do that. I have no responsibility, no accountability. All I have to do is receive, and that is in itself work that needs to be done by us all. The reception of stories that are not our own, and to hold them sacred. And then you can also walk through a door. I mean, you can also engage by walking through a door. So beyond this moment, that's going to just last until I think I'll have 40, 45 minutes. These recordings have been shorter than the lives, but 40, 45 minutes. So beyond this session, beyond the recording, like what happens to the words, what happens to the stories, what happens to the experience? Do you carry with them? Do you carry them with you longer than just these 45 minutes? Do you still think about them when you're going to bed? Do you still think about them when you wake up in the morning? Do they come up when you're in conversation with someone else? Do they prompt you to want to know more, to get more education, more information, more conversation, more interaction around them? Like that is walking through the door. You can always comment. I won't be here to receive them live, but if you comment, I will see it later. And as I see it, then I will begin to respond to you through Facebook Messenger. And I haven't seen any comments on this last one. I looked for them. I thought I was looking for them. So if you have comments and I have overlooked them, hit me up. 228-236-7440, 228-236-7440, and I'll be more than happy to engage in whatever dialogue you'd like to have around this session, where we are talking about complacency, we're talking about activism, we're talking about charity, we're talking about violence, we're talking about normalizing things. I don't think I put all of those words in the flyer, but that's what we'll be talking about. And I'm interested to know what you think. I really want to know what you think. And as always, the good fight is an outgrowth of Just Talk Consulting. Just Talk Consulting is my own consulting firm where we absolutely positively believe that the move to action, anything that we end up putting our hands to accomplish, to achieve, to win, starts with a conversation. But it's a just conversation. So we are just talking, that's true. And if we stop at the talking, that's all it is. But because we are talking about justice, because we are talking about movement creations, because we are talking about collective liberation, then the just talk, the talking about justice, has to move us to action. And that action is to tear down every wall, every barrier, every obstacle that's been intentionally designed to hold us back for one reason or another. And so Just Talk makes it possible for us to be in this space on this night, talking about the good fight of faith, whatever it is that you believe in, whatever convictions you hold dear, whatever grounds you, whatever makes up the essence of who you are, that you believe in, that faith. How does it show up? How does it manifest in a way that honors the humanity of all people and allow us the freedom to be exactly who we were created to be? So here we are with the good fight on tonight, and the text is from Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. I do have it for us I'm going to pull it up on the screen for us tonight. Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. But I want to tell you how I got here. So I play the piano at this church every single Sunday. It's New Beginnings Church of Central Arkansas. And I'm playing the piano, and there's always a person who delivers a message. We do not call this person our pastor. We do not call this person a preacher. We do not call this message a sermon. We don't use that language, even though you could, and some people might. But we don't. We just usually have a person who's delivering us a message. It's a different person every Sunday, usually. And we are just open to the spirit that is moving among us to receive what this person has to say and to do exactly what I've invited you to do in this space. You can engage in one way or another, or you can opt out of the engagement. Like, you are totally free to respond or not to respond the way you deem fit for your life. But I choose to respond. I choose to engage every single time someone is up in front of me. And it's not, and I have to admit, like, I don't want anybody to lose sight of the fact that I am a theologian. And so I'm going to approach the sermon differently from other people, not from other theologians, but from other people. And my approach is a hermeneutic of suspicion. Right? I'm always looking to critique whatever is being said. I consider myself a cultural critic. Like, I am looking for an opportunity for another aspect to kick in, another perception, to be realized. Like, where else can we go with this? What else are we trying to say? What are you not saying? What should you be saying? Like, how can we push this beyond these four walls? Like, these are the questions that I'm bringing to the text. And my hermeneutic of a suspicion says, like, but wait a minute, does that really make sense? Like, are you just reading the word? Like, I'm coming and I'm approaching these moments, every one of these moments, wondering what's about to happen with these words, what's about to unfold, and what are the words going to do within me? And perhaps that's the most important part for me. What are the words going to do within me? Because that's what I'm asking you to consider. What do the words that you hear about any kind of faith, especially your own, what do they do inside of you? And how do they live and breathe in and through you so that they impact the world in a way that says to every single body that you are welcome here? Everywhere you go, you are welcome here. Like, how do the words make you live that out? And so I'm listening. So it makes every Sunday exciting, because it's a different person. I don't know what they're going to talk about. They send out a newsletter, but I don't read it, because I'm like, I don't read the text beforehand. Like, I really am live and in color and in this moment, receiving this for the first time, and I am ready. And so Danny was our speaker on yesterday, and he was talking about to care or not to care. That is the question. To care or not to care, that is the question. And he rooted his message in the parable of the Good Samaritan that is found in Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37, that we'll take a look at in just a minute. And he was talking about the importance of people caring. Like, when we read this story, there's this man who is in need of care. It's possible that he could die without care. Like, that's a very real possibility. But there's somebody who decides that I need to care. There are other people who walk right on by like it ain't nothing. But there's at least one somebody who decides, no, I cannot walk by. I cannot step over. I cannot ignore. I cannot pretend. I cannot justify. I must do something to make sure that this person has whatever it is that they need in this moment to be healed, to be made whole, to be restored. And then at the end, and so I'm with Dan. I'm like, okay. But at the end of the story, at the end of the message, Danny says something to the effect of, but you need to know that if nobody else cares, there is one who does. And he sounded to me in that moment, he sounded like a Baptist preacher, because in my mind, in my sanctified imagination, sanctified simply meaning set apart. I'm setting myself apart from this moment to have this experience with my imagination. In my sanctified imagination, I'm like, okay, he about to open the doors of the church. He about to lift up Jesus. We about to be called to the altar. Somebody's going to get saved in here tonight. Like, I was feeling those Baptist moments. And so if nobody else cares, there is one who cares, and his name is not what he said. He said there is one who cares, and he called, I want to say he called that one God. I don't think he said Jesus, but in my mind, his name is Jesus. And on the third, here we go, right? But Danny did not do that. He said, if there's no one else who cares, you need to know. Don't walk out of this place not knowing that there is a man, there is a one, there is a spirit, there is a force, there is a woman, there is a God who cares about you. And I began to think about those words outside of the of my gut reaction to get ready to shout. I began to think on those things, to Selah, S-E-L-A-H, to Selah, pause and calmly think about this. And I was doing that. I didn't really have time to do it at church because it's time to sing another song. But I've been thinking about that ever since he said it, because I kept asking myself on the drive home, if there are no people who care, how does God care? I can't separate the two, because I believe that God is spirit. And that if God is spirit, the only way that we would experience God is for somebody to embody God. Like, you've got to take on God. You've got to be God. You've got to become God. You've got to walk as God. You've got to know you are. You've got to show up as God in this moment in order for me to receive the care. If you're not doing that as a person, as a body, then how do I know that? How does God care? If how does it happen without the presence of God made manifest in a person? And so this is what I was thinking about. And I was talking it over with a couple of people, and one of my friends was pushing me to realize that it sounds like, Denise, you're saying that a person cannot experience God without another person. Like, you got to have a person in the room with you in order for you to feel like you're in the presence of God. And that's not what I'm saying at all. I absolutely believe that there's relationship beyond people. There's a personal, intimate relationship that I have when I am with God, whether I'm surrounded by people or all alone or both, because sometimes I do feel all alone when I'm surrounded by people. But I can absolutely experience the presence of God. I used to have a rocking chair that when my father was being violent to me in the home, I would go and I would sit in that rocking chair. I had a story in my head that it belonged to my grandmother, and I would rock in this chair and I would feel her presence. I would know that she was the one wiping my tears. I was a young child, so I wasn't into all this. It was Jesus wiping. It was my grandmother who was holding me close. It was my grandmother who was whispering in my ear that everything is going to be okay. Now, I'm alone and God is present, but God's presence is coming through the experience of my grandmother. So somebody is embodying this presence for me. And so I'm not trying to say it at all that you cannot experience God away from a physical person. But what I'm saying is, if we continue to only think about it in that way, then we nullify the role of community. And we cannot nullify the role of community, because then we are not holding community accountable for what they have been created to do and created to be for us, all of us, during these times. So let me just go ahead and read the text before I get too far off into that, to make sure that we are on the same page and understanding this parable, this story that was shared by Jesus according to the text. And I'm just going to read it. And then after I read it, I will pause for a moment so that we can allow the word to wash over us. Sometimes I think we're just always moving so fast. The reader is reading fast. We're hearing it and it's going fast through our minds. And then we don't stop. We just go on to the next thing. So I just want to pause for just a moment for us to just kind of sit and just feel the washing of those words over us and see where they land and where they settle and where they fall off. Be right back. One day, an expert on Moses' laws came to test Jesus' orthodoxy by asking him this question: Teacher, what does a man need to do to live forever in heaven? Jesus replied, what does Moses' law say about it? It says, he replied, that you must love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind. And you must love your neighbor just as much as you love yourself. Right, Jesus told him, do this and you shall live. The man wanted to justify his lack of love for some kinds of people. So he asked, well, which neighbors? Jesus replied with an illustration. A Jew going on a trip from Jerusalem to Jericho was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes and money and beat him up and left him lying half dead beside the road. By chance, a Jewish priest came along, and when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A Jewish temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but then went on. But a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw him, he felt deep pity. Kneeling beside him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with medicine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his donkey and walked along beside him till they came to an inn, where he nursed him through the night. The next day, he handed the innkeeper two $20 bills and told him to take care of the man. If his bill runs higher than that, he says, I'll pay the difference the next time I am here. Now, which of these three would you say was a neighbor to the bandit's victim? The man replied, the one who showed him some pity. Then Jesus said, yes, now go and do the same. That was the story of the Good Samaritan. Many of you may have already been familiar with it. I'm not sure you've heard it from that version before. When I first started reading, I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking about the beginning. I wanted to read it from the Living Bible. That translation was the Living Bible. I wanted to read it from that Bible because it tried to make it extremely relevant, like two $20 bills. Now, you know they ain't had no two $20 bills in Jesus's day. But again, just making it relevant, making it something that we can wrap our minds around and making it a little more concrete for us to understand so that we can chew on it and not spend so much time trying to figure certain things out. But we can grasp enough of it to begin to move on it in very meaningful and sustainable ways. And so that was the Living Bible's version of the Good Samaritan. And so here we have this Jew. The man is Jewish. Jesus is Jewish. My goodness. Jesus is Jewish. So the man is Jewish and he's walking and he falls into the hands of these bandits. But let me just stop for a moment and talk about Jericho, the Jericho road. The road that connects Jerusalem to Jericho. Right? This is the road. It's a connector. So it's 17 miles long. Yeah, not 12. 17 miles long. And as you are walking these 17 miles, the road drops 3,600 feet. So if you can imagine, you're going 17 miles, which is half of a marathon. Okay? Doing half of a marathon. So you already got a good little ways to go on foot. And if you can imagine the road that you're on dropping 3,600 feet in 17 miles, this is a very tricky, a very dangerous, a very precarious road that you're walking on. And you got to be careful and you got to pay attention. And the history of this road is that it is always filled with evil. That there's always something bad that happens to somebody when they are on this road. The road is notorious for this kind of violence, this violence that happens when people are trying to make it from Jerusalem to Jericho, from Jericho to Jerusalem. It's known for this. And so just that point alone made me wonder, okay, if everybody knows that you liable to get robbed if you go down on this road that connects Jerusalem to Jericho. Everybody knows that this is probably the most dangerous place in our neighborhood, in our present geography, in our proximity. This is probably where most likely some ish about to go down. Everybody knows that. It's a dangerous street. Don't go if you don't have to. And I got stuck right there because I'm thinking, why the road why everybody know the road's so dangerous? And it's like, okay, everybody know it just is what it is. I'm like, but why is it? And so as I began to do more and more research on this story, this parable, what kept coming up was this word suffering. It kept coming up that it's that the road to Jericho is life. And as we are living this life, then what we must understand is that suffering is a part of it. That no matter what you do, no matter how you live, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, the color of your skin, your educational level, your political affiliation, your social status, your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, your gender identity, your gender expression, whether or not you have a disability, your veteran status, your marital status, whether or not you are a parent, none of that has anything to do with the fact that if you live this life, you will suffer. And I said, but why? Why do we suffer? Why do we suffer? Because if we serve a God, if we serve a God that is able to do all things, and according to the Old Testament, God can do anything except fail. The one thing that God cannot do is get it wrong. That's the one thing, which is that's another conversation about people who are telling folks that you were born. God don't make mistakes. If a person tells you this is who I am, God did not make a mistake. That's who the person is. Okay, wait, but here is how is it that God can move mountains? God can make the rocks cry out. God can make the lame to leap and the mute to hear and the blind to see and the healed to raise up, the dead to be resurrected. God can do all of that, but can't figure out how to stop us from suffering. And I can just hear somebody saying, well, that's because God gives us free will. So because we have free will and we are people, then we're the ones who are gonna make other people suffer. But why? Why do we have to suffer? Why do we have to make each other suffer? Why does that have to be a regular part of our lives? Why have we normalized suffering? Because I don't think we have to normalize suffering. I reject the theology that says that you were created to suffer because it gives God glory. I reject that theology, and I reject it with every ounce of my being. God don't need me to be half dead in the street to be glorified. What does that sound like? What kind of God is that? I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it so that you lying in the street, you bleed, you about to die, and you totally dependent on somebody to come by and help you, so that when you get help, you can praise me and I can feel high and lifted up, because that's the kind of God I am. Does that make sense? That does not make sense. That would be the kind of God that you would serve, a God who would wish violence on you to make God's self look good. So I'm gonna wish a tragedy on you so you can have a testimony. That's what we tell people. And that's how we live our faith. Many of us who are professors of the Christian faith, that everything that happens to me, the pain, the trauma, and the degradation, the dehumanization, it was part of God's design to be used so that I can somehow come out brighter and better. That my pathway, my journey is gonna the purpose of it is gonna crystallize, because it's gonna be a before and after, before the trauma and after the trauma. And it takes the trauma for me to realize, oh, now I have a purpose in life. What? You ain't got no purpose without trauma. So what if a person has not been traumatized? But you say, oh, well, everybody has been traumatized. Oh, so again, if that's the case, we are now living in a world where we normalize trauma. What, you ain't been traumatized, girl? What's wrong with you? I did it myself. I've been stalked 3 times. And I remember two summers ago, I remember this vividly. I was talking to my cousin Candace, and I was talking to a new friend I had made named Crystal, and we were talking about riding bikes and the importance of riding bikes. And we all had bikes, and so we were going to ride our bikes, and we were going to talk about it, we were going to measure, we were going to let everybody keep each other posted about the measurements. We were talking, and we were just having a conversation, and I was like, yeah, because I've been stalked and 3 times, and I just kept on going. They were like, whoa, what you mean you been stalked 3 times? And my response was, y'all ain't been stalked. They were like, no. I was like, I just thought that was what happened to people. No, Denise, stalking is not just what happens to people. And for you to have been like, let's wait, sis, let's back up. Let's slow down. Let's talk about this. And so the whole conversation shifted, and there was a moment where they had to call me to G. Like, come on, hold on. What are you saying about your life? And so this is what we're having conversation about. And so that's how I feel in this moment when I'm listening to this story about Jericho Way. And I mean, Jericho Way. So I got a friend who works at Jericho Way. I'm listening to the story about the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. And we know that this road is it's filled with violence. People are traumatized. It's not good. It's evil everywhere. And everybody just sits back like, yeah, you know that road. No big deal. That's just how it is. It is what it is. Suffering. Girl, now you know somebody got to get raped. Now you know somebody gonna get killed. You know somebody gonna be molested. That's just how it is. Wait, what? Listen to ourselves. And so I was talking to somebody about this. Denise, but then how are you gonna alleviate? If you alleviate suffering, you got to get rid of so many other things, because suffering is attached to so much stuff in our lives. And I was like, only because we say so. If we are going to eradicate suffering, which I do believe is possible, and I believe it's possible in our lifetime, if we are going to do it, we simply have to, first of all, acknowledge where the suffering came from. It did not come from God. We suffer because systems of domination and oppression and dehumanization and degradation have been intentionally intentionally fixed as normal parts of our lives. They've normalized these systems so that we believe that suffering came from God, but it didn't. Suffering came from man, humans. And I don't mean man gender. I mean humanity, because it's men and women that enslave people. So when we think about just when we get to the DNA, what makes us who we are as a country and a world is predicated and rooted on and sourced in suffering. Somebody has got to suffer in order for me to benefit. Somebody has got to suffer in order for me to prosper. Somebody has got to I got to put my knee on somebody's neck in order for me to climb up so I can step into this luxury car, up the steps to this beautiful home, or whatever it is that we think we are gaining in this life that's fueled by capitalism that we've bought into, thinking that I've arrived because I have a house. I've arrived because I have a car. I arrived because I've had children. I've arrived because I have some kind of educational degree. None of that means anything when you got a street in your neighborhood or in your community that everybody knows somebody might die on, and we walk around it or avoid it or run through it as if that's normal. And it's not. It ought to be normal for us when suffering happens to say, wait a minute, who's suffering? Somebody's suffering? What? Come on, let's get to what they need. But what do you need? How much money do you need? How many resources do you need? Do you have your insurance? Can I get you some transportation? That is it should shock us that somebody is suffering among us. It shouldn't be a situation where they call it the temple assistant. The temple assistant in the story The temple assistant in the story that I just read to you from the Living Bible translation, the temple assistant goes over and takes a look at the man lying down and say, listen, walk on by. Walk on by. I was thinking about, I just thought about that song right now. But the song that I wanted to play took me, that's what took me so long to come on. I was trying to figure out how to get the song to play. I could play another song. Why can't I play this song? How Deep Is Your Love by Keith Sweat. How deep is your love for humanity deep enough for you to say suffering should not be normalized? It should be rare. I'm not saying it would never happen, but it should be rare. And we should be shocked and horrified, and we should clutch our pearls and say, wait a minute, I must be moved to action behind this. Listen to what Dr. King says. I found these words as I was studying about the road to Jericho, that connects Jericho and Jerusalem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, on the one hand, we are all called. We are all, that's me making up words. Let me go back. Martin Luther King Jr. said, on the one hand, we are called to play the Good Samaritan on life's roadside, but that will be only an initial act. One day we must come to see that the whole Jericho road must be transformed so that men and women will not be constantly beaten and robbed as they make their journey on life's highway. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It is not haphazard and superficial. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. Come on, Dr. King. So many times we hear this story about the Good Samaritan and we wonder, how can I create a clothes closet so that somebody can come and get some clothes when they are naked? How do I have a food pantry so somebody can come and get some food when they are hungry? How do I fix it so that you can come into the church and get loved on when I know that you are isolated and lonely, when you are isolated and lonely? We fix it so that we can serve folks when they are down and out, instead of fixing it so that they are not down and out. Should nobody be hungry among us? No one should need health care. No one should go without gainful employment if that's what they want. If they want to be employed, no one should be denied a way to feed their children. We shouldn't have to depend on food banks for that. And so Dr. King says, yes, go ahead and flick a coin to a beggar if that's what makes you feel good. I'm not trying to say don't feel good, but please know that your work is not over. Please know that your charity is not the end of the game. The eradication of the situation that the person is in that requires you to flick that coin, that is what needs to happen. That work that we are all called to do as human. That is what this story should move you to do. Figure out, strategize, be tactical about eradicating the systems that create poverty and hunger and racism and sexism and classism and all of the phobias. Let that be what guides us through understanding this road to Jericho. And that's why I said at the very beginning, if you don't care, how God gonna care? Because if we're not showing up to fight these systems, and we're sending people out into the jaws, sharks, and we're sitting back saying, well, Jesus gonna fix it after a while. How does that work? How does Jesus fix stuff when we sit back and are silent? How does that happen? See, we've created Jesus to be this mythical character. Well, I don't want to say mythical. Don't let me offend anybody. This spiritual being that's over here somewhere, that's up here somewhere. And some of us believe, oh no, he lives in me because I am the church. Remember the little thing we used to do? How I go? Oh, I am the church, and then there's a steeple, open the doors, and there's the people. Right. Like, so some people believe that the church is in me. Yes, but we believe it's in me so that I can be holy inside of myself. So I can say, oh yeah, I've been to church. Oh yeah, um I gave to the ministry at the church. I fed the hungry. But what did I do to stop them from being hungry? I think that's the work. And if we are not aligning ourselves with the work that frees people from the bondage of these systems, how dare we pat ourselves on the back? Because what have we done? That's all I got for us to consider. Remember, up for consideration, you can reject it, you can receive it, you can receive parts and reject others. It's totally up to you. But I got to get out of here. I got to go to class, y'all. I'm about to be nationally certified on Friday. Already a phlebotomist. I'm proud of myself. Thank you all so much for joining us for The Good Fight. We'll be right back here on next Tuesday, which will be August the 1st, right back here at 7 p.m. Thank you so much for your presence in this space. I hope to hear from you soon. Hit me up on Messenger, or you can text me 228-236-7440.